And this week we are talking all things MTA. As more and more workers return to the city, the subways and buses, they're gearing up for more riders. That's a good thing. But safety remains a big concern. And this morning we're going on the record with the new acting chief and CEO of the MTA, Janno Lieber. So, Mr. Lieber, thank you for being here on your first appearance on Picks on Politics, and very good to have you here in person, by the way.
Good to be with you, Dan.
So, you have been on the job for almost 3 months now. I want to get into, when you were named acting, what did you set as your top priority?
It has to be, providing first-class service and enough service to really support the region's economic recovery. And the MTA not only needs to support the region, but we need to get our riders back because we lost about half of our riders during COVID, and to make this the MTA financially viable, we're going to need riders back, and we want to support the region.
So how is ridership then at this specific point in time? It's ticking slowly back up as more and more people go back to work, more and more people get vaccinated. It's
starting to move really quickly, actually, Dan. Literally yesterday we hit another record on the subways, 3.2 million people. The commuter railroad ridership has shot up to 50%. Where it was much lower even just a few weeks ago. There are real signs of dramatic recovery, and the most important signal is people feel they're safe and they want to ride mass transit. Is that on the weekends when ridership is discretionary, it's even higher. It's at 75%. So as soon as the companies start calling people back to the office, I think we're going to get there.
And that's a good sign. You're seeing it tick slowly back up. You used the word safe, so I want to pivot then to the topic of safety. Obviously a concern for subway riders, not just right now, but always when they ride the subways, even pre-pandemic. So just this past week, a woman was pushed by someone into an oncoming train, right, at a busy Times Square station. This is not an isolated incident here, right? So what is being done to ease people's minds as they head back into the system?
Well, look, first of all, I grew up in New York in the 70s, in a time when the subways were much more dangerous. Our statistics showed, demonstrably that it is safer in the subway than it is in almost anywhere in New York. The numbers are very low, and they have been getting lower in recent months.
But when you have high-profile incidents, not to
yes,
cut you off,
absolutely.
Perception's reality.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we are asking the city government to do, because the city is really responsible for the issues of homelessness and especially providing mental health services to people who need it, is that they have more outreach workers. Now, we have done additional work on collecting data so that we know where folks who are homeless who need mental health services are located, so that we can help our friends in the city government bring people to them. And we've worked with the city to make sure that they can put customer calls on 311 so we can get services to people quickly. But we want everybody to feel safe. It's really important, and we're going to work hard to make sure that comes across.
So more mental health, more homeless services in the subway. Are you hearing responses from the city about getting those resources down there?
I mean, our relationship with the city has improved significantly, and especially with the NYPD. The NYPD has added officers at our request to the subways, 1,100 additional officers, and if you've been paying attention in recent weeks, they're deploying them onto the platforms, around the service and actually riding the trains. So there's a much bigger uniform presence, and I think that's having an effect. The numbers are actually coming down, Dan.
All right, I want to talk about the workforce, because we know that you lost a number of employees due to COVID-19, that they lost their lives. Now you're requiring new hires in November to be vaccinated when you hire them. Will the entire workforce be vaccinated?
Well, obviously, we're requiring the new hires to be vaccinated. For the existing hires, I have pushed really hard to get everybody vaccinated. And we've made significant progress, 15 percentage points higher just since I got here in a couple of weeks in terms of our vax rate. We're in the mid-70 percentile, not far off from the population at large. And as of literally this week, we're requiring everyone who hasn't gotten vaccinated, and we're still pushing them to do it. But if you're not vaccinated and you work for the MTA, you have to have a test every week to make sure you're not endangering yourself or co-workers or anybody else.
Understood. And moving along to the next topic here, I want to talk about infrastructure, because about a month ago we saw that crazy flash flooding from Ida. Now, that was an anomaly here in terms of that storm. We saw subway stations flooded out. New Yorkers were obviously wading through water. But it seems like even during a heavy rainstorm, sometimes water makes its way into the subways. Obviously, they're underground. What's being done to prevent that?
Look, after Superstorm Sandy 8 or 9 years ago, we invested about $6 billion. A lot of it came from the federal government. in making our coastal areas really resilient. So we're able to plug up all the vents, to plug up the ducts, to even put flood doors on some of the stations, and that's great. And that's really important because it protects the system against salt water, coastal surges. But when you're dealing with flash flooding, there isn't as much danger in the long run, but the water can have an impact. So what we're doing is in addition to the normal operation, we are actually looking at opportunities to raise curbs and do other things, plugging up ducts and doing things that we can do to keep water out of the system. But the important thing to know is the system is incredibly resilient, Dan. 3 hours after the rain stopped on Hurricane Ida, we ran rush hour. It wasn't a perfect rush hour, but we ran rush hour. We pumped 75 million gallons of water out of this system. We have incredible pumping resources. We can run in water.
You're not going anywhere. You're going to stick around because we got to talk about congestion pricing. I got to squeeze in a quick break. So Mr. Lieber is going to be staying with me because as we come back, we have to talk about that topic of congestion pricing. The MTA pushing hard for the plan to charge drivers in heavily trafficked areas, right? But there's a lot of pushback to the idea. We're going to get into it.